This is History Replay, this day. What if I told you that on August 22nd, one king's impulsive decision drastically changed the course of English history? This is the story of Richard III and the Battle of Bosworth Field. Richard III being crowned the King of England. Richard III, whose legacy remains a topic of debate among historians even today, had worn the crown of England since 1483, a relatively short span of just 2 years. However, despite the shortness of his reign, the political landscape of England was fraught with tension and unease. As whispers of dissent echoed in noble halls and public squares, challenging the legitimacy of his rule and reflecting the simmering unrest of the time. Secret meetings, nobles whispering in hushed tones. Even after Richard III's coronation, skepticism loomed large over his right to the English throne. The whispers weren't just limited to his ascension, they were fueled by the enigmatic disappearance of his young nephews, commonly referred to as the princes in the Tower. These boys, heirs in their own right and direct threats to Richard's reign, vanished without a trace during his rule. The unresolved fate of these young royals cast a long shadow, with many speculating about Richard's role in their mysterious absence. This cloud of suspicion and the resultant rumors became a persistent spectre, haunting every decision Richard made and casting doubt over his entire reign. Richard III's army on the move. In the warm months of 1485, Henry Tudor, whose claim to the English throne was somewhat fragile, being derived from his mother's side, sensed a pivotal moment in history unfolding. Although his lineage did provide a link to royalty, it was often viewed as weak, especially when compared to other potential claimants. Yet, despite the challenges, he was not one to sit idly by. During his time in exile in France, rather than wallowing in despair or obscurity, he became a beacon for dissidents and those disillusioned with Richard's rule. Mobilizing these forces and tapping into the networks of support he had cultivated, Henry amassed a formidable army. With this newfound might, he boldly turned his gaze toward England, aiming to wrest the crown and establish a new era of Tudor rule. Ships landing on the coast, soldiers disembarking, ready for battle. As the ships carrying Henry's forces touched the shores of Wales, a sense of anticipation spread through the region. The sight of the determined soldiers disembarking, many of them Welshmen who viewed Henry as one of their own, signaled a challenge to the status quo. As these forces steadily and strategically advanced, making their presence felt in town after town, whispers turned into loud discussions about the impending confrontation. England braced itself, as the two forces, each representing a different vision for the nation, seemed destined to collide. The palpable tension reached its zenith as the days passed. And finally, on August 22nd, amid the sprawling fields and rolling hills, the two sides met in what would be remembered as one of the most decisive battles in English history. Two armies, lined up on opposite sides of a rolling green landscape, tension palpable in the air. Located in Leicestershire, the Battle of Bosworth Field was not the largest of medieval confrontations, but its significance was monumental. On one side, the reigning King Richard III with his well-equipped army, and on the other, Henry Tudor, eager to stake his claim. The two armies clashing, arrows flying, swords clashing, and shouts of soldiers filling the air. Though Richard had the advantage in terms of numbers, Henry had something just as valuable: the support of the influential Stanley brothers, who controlled significant forces but remained noncommittal as to which side they would support. A close-up of Richard on his horse, observing the battle, looking increasingly desperate. As the battle raged on, the air thick with the sound of clashing swords and the cries of soldiers, Richard's keen eyes discerned a potential turning point. Amidst the chaos and dust, he caught a glimpse of Henry Tudor, the very heart of the rebellion, surprisingly close and seemingly exposed. A rush of adrenaline and perhaps a touch of desperation spurred Richard into action. Recognizing the opportunity to not only defeat but also to symbolically and literally strike at the source of the uprising, he spurred his horse into a gallop, charging forward with his guards and loyalists in tow. Richard aimed to deliver a swift, decisive blow to Henry, hoping that by eliminating the figurehead of the opposition, he could turn the tide of the battle in one fell swoop. Richard charging valiantly, cutting down soldiers in his path, his goal nearly in reach. As Richard, fueled by determination and ambition, closed the gap between himself and Henry, it seemed for a brief moment that victory might be within his grasp. But, just as he readied himself for what he hoped would be a game-changing confrontation, the unexpected occurred. The Stanleys, a powerful and influential family who had, until that point, remained enigmatically neutral, burst onto the scene. Instead of aligning with Richard, as some might have anticipated, they threw their considerable weight behind Henry. Their forces, fresh and formidable, surged onto the battlefield, bolstering Henry's ranks and bringing with them a renewed energy. This unforeseen alliance and their timely intervention didn't just bolster Henry's defense, it dramatically shifted the momentum. What had seemed like a possible victory for Richard was suddenly turned on its head, with the tide of the battle swaying decidedly in Henry's favor. Richard surrounded, fighting valiantly but overwhelmed. His crown falls into the mud, symbolizing his fall from power. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the battlefield, a profound silence settled. Richard III, who had begun the day as the reigning monarch, lay lifeless among the fallen. His demise held the grim distinction of making him the last English king to meet his end in the heat of battle. But the implications of his death extended far beyond this personal tragedy. With Richard's fall came the culmination of the tumultuous Wars of the Roses, a series of conflicts that had pitted cousin against cousin, tearing at the fabric of England for decades. Moreover, it heralded the close of an era, the Plantagenet dynasty, which had held the throne for over 3 centuries, saw its final sunset. In its wake, the stage was set for a new chapter in English history, with the rise of the Tudor dynasty, promising both change and continuity. Henry Tudor, standing victorious, soldiers cheering around him. Following the dramatic events on the battlefield and Richard's unfortunate end, the path was clear for Henry Tudor. Amidst the reverent cheers of his supporters and the cautious eyes of the previously opposing factions, he was anointed and crowned as King Henry VII. This coronation wasn't just a personal triumph for Henry, but a historical watershed moment for England. The Tudor rose, symbolizing the union of the warring houses of York and Lancaster, became the emblem of a new era. With Henry VII's ascension began the reign of the illustrious Tudor dynasty, a lineage that would shape and influence the cultural, political, and social landscapes of England for the next 118 years. From monumental religious reforms to exploration ventures and artistic flourishes, the Tudors would leave an indelible mark on the annals of history. A panoramic view of the modern-day Bosworth Field, peaceful and green, with a memorial marking the spot of the historic battle. On August 22nd, beneath the overcast skies of Bosworth Field, the very destiny of a nation hung in the balance. The grassy expanse became the stage for a fierce ballet of strategy, valor, and betrayal. What began as a clash of banners and cries in the early morning light culminated in a seismic shift by the day's end. Though the battle itself spanned just a few intense hours, its repercussions echoed through the corridors of time. The fallout from this singular confrontation wasn't just the ascension of a new monarch or the end of a tumultuous era. It symbolized the profound ability of a singular event to rewrite the course of a nation's story. The fields of Bosworth, now silent and serene, stand as a testament to that pivotal day when the trajectory of English history was irrevocably altered. So join us again as we delve into another date and another moment that defined our world. History doesn't just replay, it lives and breathes in moments like these. And if you have not done so already, please like, share and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss another episode. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next episode.